So most people never learned how to do this, which is pause. Not because they weren't taught well, but because the moment moves too fast and being in this space has built them to where they are. Hi, I'm Lindsay Pfister-Kerr. I am the founder of LPK Coaching. And if you're joining for the first time one of our live sessions, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. And if you've been on some of our past sessions, and if you were with us in May, I'm very excited because we're going to take May's session and we're going to go one step deeper. So last month we talked about what to do in the moment because we've been talking a lot about pausing, toxic responsibility, catching ourselves. Because as I've shared myself, many of my clients, we're the people who are very capable, very responsible, and very likely to take on any and all responsibilities, personally, professionally, before anyone even asks, before we're even the thought to be, or we just even think there's the sense that something might need to be done. And we all jump in and say, yes, I'll do it. So last month we looked at what are some questions, and we've been looking at how to decide what is mine to actually carry. What is my responsibility? And last month I gave you some questions. After this one, I'll share the replay in the comments if you missed it. And I offered four questions to stop and think about that give you a moment between something floating out there that might need done and you just getting to work on it. And asking some questions is to decide what is it actually yours. And that's what we looked at. But this month, we're going to go underneath that moment. So we're learning how to pause it, how to hold it up. But now we're going to go a step deeper. And the question is can I use those questions? But why do I even need them? Why do I need to work in a pause? Why am I the one who always just takes it on and runs with it? And we know it's a pattern that's built. But there's also a deeper piece to this that can be concerning. So, we're going to look at what's underneath that moment and that why even good information can't make it into us. Why do we not even stop to ask, like, do I have time for this? Do I even want to do this? We just go, I'll do it. So I want to ask you a quick question. So if you're joining us live today, thank you. And I'd like to ask you for a moment, drop in the comments if you stopped being the one who handles things, even for a week, for a day, for an hour. What's the first worry that comes to your mind? So if you decided you pick what period of time feels comfortable for you, if you stopped taking on everything, if you stopped jumping into handling it, what is the concern or what's the first worry that comes up for you if you don't do that? So if you're joining us, please share in the comments. I would love to hear what your thinking is on that. So, as I mentioned, last month we talked about how responsibility gets assigned internally. Sometimes we think it's externally, and it is, which we talked about also because we've trained other people that we'll be the one to take it on. But we've also trained ourselves internally that we should take it on. We should be the one to run with it before anyone asks. Doesn't matter where it is, home, work, if you're in, your kids' sports, PTO, family, friend groups. And I gave you four questions to catch yourself in the moment. If you tried those questions, you probably noticed something. Knowing what to ask and actually asking it in the moment are two things. And today is about why. So we know what to ask. I've given guidance, I've given questions for us to ask. The challenge may be is it is no, you know the questions, but actually asking them of yourself. Actually asking, do I want to take this on? Do I need to? Should I? And the challenge um, is dealing with that is what is stopping us from using those questions? Because logically, as I've shared many a times, my clients often say, logically, I know I should. But what stops us from applying something we know can help us, that can stop us from being overwhelmed, that can stop us from feeling completely living in survival mode? So, what stops us from asking the questions? So is about that. So someone shared the first worry is the task job will not get done. And I get that from a lot of my clients. If I don't do it, it won't happen. If I don't pack everyone, we're going to get to where we're going and I'm going to have to go shopping because they didn't do what they needed to. If I don't do it, they're not going to make it to their practice. If I don't jump in on this project, it's going to sit there and I'll come back and ask questions and everyone will be like, oh, well, because we see the importance of it, but it doesn't feel like someone else does. So if I don't, and that's often what I hear. So thank you for sharing. Absolutely. It won't get done. Without me, it's just going to either fall to the wayside, not happen, or it will just sit there. So, as I shared in the comments, I'll throw in the replay from May if that's helpful. But now we want to go a little further. So we talked about how this shows up at work. We talked about how our internal push for responsibility to take things on, to jump in, show up at work. We looked at how it shows up at home. I think one of the examples I used is, at work, it can be a project sitting there and there's a task that needs done and it may feel like an eternity to you. And maybe it's only been 3 seconds when someone says, hey, on the project, we need X, Y, and Z done. And it feels like to you, you waited a really long time. I bet if you looked at the actual clock of your watch, it was probably only a couple of seconds, but it felt like an eternity and you felt the need to jump in because, well, no one else was going to take it. So I had to. Or at home, somebody asks where something is. And instead of letting your partner, your spouse, your child figure it out on their own, you just go get it. You just do it. It's a time saver. I don't have to explain. I don't have to answer a million questions. I'll just do it. So the reason this happened, the challenge we have is at work we feel the need to jump in because of the importance of doing our work well, because of showing up. One of the big values I often work through with people is competence. If I don't step in and say I'll do it, if I don't have an answer as soon as the question's asked, if I don't, excuse me, no one is going, my level, how competent people think I am is going to go down. And I really struggled with this as when I was a principal, the first probably 6 months or a year, until I had a big learning, and started some things that I jumped in too fast for kind of came back to bite me. And the problem with it is I needed people to think I was competent. I was a new principal. I was a young principal, and I needed people and I'd been given this wonderful opportunity. I needed people to think I was competent. And on the other side of it is at home now, it that follows me here. So what I used to do in my leadership roles, what I did in HR, what I did at work doesn't stop at the door and be like, "Oh, Lindsay, you can give up responsibility now. It's okay. Someone else will figure it out." When we're responsible like that, it doesn't have an off switch. It doesn't just say like, I'll just stay at work or because I'm in charge there, or I'll just stay in this space because I lead this organization or I sit on this board. It comes with us. It's who we are. Starts to become who we are. And it starts to become a part of our identity. And that's this underlying deeper part to this. If I don't do it, it won't get done is very accurate. On the other side of that, how many times have you been described as the person who gets it done or the go-to person, the one who will make sure it gets done? I work with a group and do some work for another group, and it was a really nice compliment that I got. And the person said to me, "Oh, we haven't worked together yet. And I'm so excited to work with you because I've been told if you need it done, give Lindsay a call. She'll get it done." And I appreciate that, and I do because I take this honor very seriously that the people have entrusted me with, this type of the work that they're asking me to do. But at the same time, that's great in that situation, but that can start to creep out and can start to grow. And that's what we haven't talked about yet is how is this a part of our identity? How is this a part of how we see ourselves? How is this a part of how people see us? And what happens if I turn that off? What happens if I say no? Does it change who I am? Does it change how they see me? And this is a pattern, not a one-off, not an occasional. This is our pattern of how we deal with things. So we are at full intensity in high stakes meetings. So when I used to walk into school board meetings, I had to be on target. I had to have my data in front of me. I had to have my data in front of me. I had to be prepared for the questions that could come, especially when I went into executive session, because I was talking about personnel, which wasn't often talked about in the public unless needed. And I had to be ready to answer difficult questions. I had to be ready to give feedback. I had to know my stuff. And I don't doubt you all have those meetings. You have to be prepared. You have to be on target. You have to be ready to go. And that full intensity is needed in that moment. In a school board meeting, I needed that high level. However, when I left the school board meeting and came home, that high intensity stayed there. I had to be able to find and make sure we had formula because my son was little at the time. And I had to make sure, and I took the intensity and the same level of how I showed up in an executive session and in a school board meeting and brought it home to, did we have groceries? Did we, was the laundry getting done? Did our son have all the things he needed? And I kept them at that same level. And, you know, that's where we jump in because I needed to be able to jump in and anticipate what could happen in the meeting. And at home, I do the same thing. So that's not a professional habit. And even as a professional habit, we don't always need to be at that level. But being at that level has gotten us to where we are. Being at that level has given us more promotions. Being at that level has given us, gotten us new jobs, made us the person that comes to mind when a job becomes available that we could be really good at. And that's great. But what happens when that starts to become your only level? Think about that. It becomes your identity. It becomes how you respond to everything. It becomes how you do it all. And the challenge is once it becomes, we do everything, I've been told I can be intense, which is not my ideal. Um, the people have said there's a level of intensity in how I do it. My husband happens to work with someone I went to high school with, and I guess it's been there since then. But it's how I showed up. I wanted people to take me seriously. I wanted what I had to say to be respected. I wanted what I said to be heard. And that intensity started building and it started helping me. And when I graduated, from Duquesne and I had all these awards and acknowledgments because I was really good at teaching. That was important to me. And then it built, and then I went into teaching, and I was the one who got called for stuff or asked to do things or given opportunities to stay on longer when I was subbing, and then got a job, and then was given a principalship early on, and then moved from a small little private school to a big school district and a job that was adjacent to what I had been doing. And then my next job, I got a call from someone I highly respected and said, "Hey, I thought of you." And the thought that this person even thought of me for the job was amazing. So that has to be who I am. I have to be the planner. I have to be the one who's in charge of things. I mean, I have to be. But the problem is that I have to be's don't turn off. So I'm curious for you, for this part of it, where does this show up the most? The responsibility, the competence, the need to step in and do things. Is it at work? Is it at home? Is it both? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear. Some people may be able to turn it off. I wasn't one of those people. And I am happy to say, through a lot of focus and work and sharing the things I share with you all, I've been able to bring it down. I've been able to start to let go of some things. I've been able to but I'll be honest, when I go on vacation this summer, I'm still going to be the one who plans all the dinners and has all the reservations and does all those things. And everybody lets me. But part of it's because I like it, but part of it is just what I do. So that's the challenge is it becomes who we are. We can't turn it off and on, but then it starts to take its toll on us. Do you always want to be the one planning the front events? Do you always want to be the one everybody looks to get something done? Do you always want to be the one who is up at midnight trying to get all the things around the house done, plus all the things you've agreed to, plus that work project? After a while, no, we don't want to be that. It's tiring, and nothing takes that exhaustion away. So, in almost every coaching session, at some point, someone says to me, as I shared a little bit earlier, if I stop taking care of things, who will? My partner's not going to do it. And interesting, it ends up coming back around to the partner may not do it the way we want it done. If I don't do it at work, well, my team members, I can't put more on them. They're already busy. And they don't just mean at work, like I said, or at home. They mean everything. And we have a variety of reasons why. That if we stop taking care of it, who will? So, one of the things I learned, and I think I shared it in this month's blog, which was an interesting eye opener that does get me to try to step back some, that does try to get me to pull back, was I started realizing that when I came in and started taking over everything, I didn't realize how I was making other people feel. And I even learned this further when I started doing leadership training on delegation. I didn't realize when I always jumped in and took it on, I thought I was helping people. And I've been that way since I've been a kid. When I was a kid, it used to be I was told I was bossy because I was a little more direct. But I thought I was helping. I thought if I did it for you, if I went and found things, if I offered to step in, I thought I was helping. And that grew. I wanted to keep helping. I like helping people. The challenge was is I didn't realize that at times I can make my husband feel like I don't think he's capable of taking care of our son. At work, it could come across as I don't think someone in a different position or someone who is sitting at the table maybe wanted to do that, maybe was nervous to step up, or I made them feel like they weren't capable of taking it on. So it did start, it came at a cost that I didn't recognize until it was finally brought to my attention. And it's not going to happen at work because many people are going to be nice about it and sit back. But it was brought to my attention personally that my identity of always jumping in made my mom feel like I didn't think she could do things, and she'd remind me that I wasn't at work and she wasn't one of my employees that I was guiding. But I would make her feel like I didn't think she was capable or smart enough. I was trying to be smarter. Or my husband would feel that I didn't think he could handle something. And that's never what I wanted. I never wanted people to feel that way. But part of who I am was just that person who jumped in. So the thing about it is it's not the question of, will things get done? Because that is part of the question. We do want things to get done. We want to make sure everybody's packed for our trip. We want to make sure the food is there for the luncheon at work. We want to make sure the project moves ahead. Those we do genuinely want to do that. The question is does it always have to be us, or are we meeting an identity need? Do I have to be the one to always order lunch? Or could someone else do that? Am I doing it because, like I said, for me, the identity was being helpful. And then eventually in my career was showing I was competent. And then showing at some point that I was, I needed to meet my responsibility need. But that's where the question comes in. And maybe that's a deeper question that might make more of a difference. Because the question is, am I capable of taking on more, as we've talked about before? The answer is always going to be yes. You are a highly capable, competent achiever who can take on everything. And probably, even if it runs you into the ground, it will get done and it will get done well and it will get done on time. And probably with a few extras thrown in there because you can. And those are, and I know that because that's me, that's the people I work with. Highly capable, highly competent, very strong, very good at what they do. So capable, yes. And we're always probably going to find a reason to take it on. I can do it, can do it. I want to help people. These are people I love. These are people I care about. I don't want to put more on my staff, on my team, on so I'll just hold it. I'll take it because it's better if it weighs on me because my identity is to care, to be responsible. So it's better if it weighs on me than other people. However, the thing we have to start to change the question, and maybe this question will resonate a little bit more, is it yours? Is it truly yours? Do you need to be the one doing it? I know it sounds silly, but my husband took my son to the dentist yesterday. That was really hard for me. I wasn't sitting there. Did he get the fluoride? Was he sitting in the back? Did he hear what the dentist said? Do we need to do anything? It was a cleaning. And I let it, like, I knew my husband could handle it. And I knew I had other things that had to get done. But it was really hard to let that go. And yes, I peppered the poor man with questions when he walked in. And that sounds silly. It should be something simple. But I made the appointment. That's my responsibility. But in that case, it wasn't mine to do. Someone else could do it. And those are different questions. Am I capable? Can I get it done? Do I need to? Nah, that's where the question switches. And once you start asking the second one, is it really mine? The first one loses some of its grip. And another question you may want to add in there is not just, is it mine? Could I be taking something away from someone else when I do it? Am I making assumptions about what they need? Am I choosing for someone else that they don't have the time for this, that they're not interested, that they can't do it? And we don't mean to do that. We're not doing it intentionally, like, oh, I don't think you're capable. We take into consideration what other people are carrying, and we don't want to put more on them. We take into consideration what it could mean. And I'd rather bear the brunt on me than put it on someone else because there's often a lot of care behind this. So when you start asking these deeper questions as to, is this meeting a need in my identity for me to step in and do this? Am I meeting my need for responsibility? Am I meeting my need for competence? Am I aligning with my values to do this at whatever expense? That's a big one. And then when we start to say, well, if I don't do it, and it starts to grow. So the identity underneath this being capable, being dependable, being the one who holds things together is built from real skill and real effort. You've gotten yourself here and it's gotten you really good things. It's made sure things are taken care of. It means things flow smoothly. It means you get promotions. It means people think of you. And the goal with any work or anything I share is not to dismantle what's gotten you here or take apart doing things and getting things done because that's not realistic, especially for people who this resonates with. It's for you to start making the decision and making it from the place that you're deciding. Your true core self is deciding. Your true person is deciding. You're not letting fear of it affecting your identity. You're not letting concerns of that you're putting too much on other people. You're not letting other things decide for you. You are truly stepping in and saying, no, this is mine to take on. This is my responsibility. Or no, I've talked to that person. They truly don't have it, and I'm okay with this. I truly can let someone else do this. So the question that I want you to take from today is not, can I handle this? Not, is this just mine? This is the question that goes underneath. If I don't step in, what do I believe would happen? Do I believe everything will fall apart? Do I believe I'll be perceived as incompetent? Do I believe as people don't think I want to be responsible? Could I be perceived as lazy? We haven't even touched on that. Could I be perceived as shirking my work? Could I be perceived as um, not being the go-getter I was? Could I be perceived as less or not being respectful of the opportunity I've been given? Could I be perceived as just expecting my partner or my spouse to do everything? You have to ask yourself that question is I know the four questions to ask to decide if something's mine. What stops me from asking those? What stops me from pausing and deciding, do I even want to take this on? Which we've talked about those things. But maybe the deeper question that would be helpful to touch on is if I don't do this, if I don't say yes, if I don't step in, what could happen? And I want you to think about that. And I don't want you to think what might happen. What do you actually believe in your gut, in your insides, in your brain, in your whole body would happen if you don't step in? I know some people who their worries about this go way into the future. Their children may, and I can't say, and I have the same thoughts. If I don't step in and stop my child or my loved one or from something, there's this whole story I tell myself of this catastrophic outcome. And now I've got a child 30 years down the road who is just sitting in my base, who's in my basement playing video games and doesn't want to get a job because I, in this moment, didn't step in to take him somewhere or to tell him no, not to do something or to be, and I didn't let someone else do it. Or is it if you don't step in, do you picture the project failing and losing your top client and all of the revenue that could come from it? And now you've lost your job. And some of us do get there very fast. I wish I could say some of us would be like, oh, the project will fall apart. Some of us have warp speed what ifs. By the end of it, we're already picturing ourselves out of a job. And oh, we just didn't say yes to like, I'll format that document. So, what most people discover when they start asking this question of what do I actually believe would happen if I don't take it on? When you sit with the question, the fear is bigger than the reality. What you're afraid of could happen, might happen, would happen. Well, not would, could, should, might. That grows and grows and grows and presses on us so much more. And if we step back and look at what's the reality if I don't take this on? If I don't go to the dentist, I just asked my husband what happened. If I don't step into this project and I'm not the one to take on all the pieces, maybe it gets done at a level 8 instead of a level 10, but it still gets done. Maybe on the other side, it could be maybe someone gets an opportunity to learn or grow. And that gap between what you fear and what would actually happen, like if you don't pack for everybody to go somewhere, what's the worst case scenario? You have to go buy something. And most of us are within so many miles of a Target or Walmart or Amazon finding us. And this is where the pattern lives. And it's where we can start to change. When we're willing to face, we've tried all the techniques and we just can't stop ourselves. When we take it down to a really deep level and start to look at what our fear is, if we're not the one to handle it, that can start to tell us, are we not going to live a value? Or is something really going to fall apart? If we start recognizing all of the fear and we bring it in and we deal with it and ask what could really happen. And let's be honest, if you're on a project and you don't step in and take it and someone else does and it doesn't go in there, you can always step in later. We all know that. You're not going to ever let something completely go. None of us are. None of us are ever going to let something completely fall apart. We're never going to let something horrific happen on purpose. So think about something you took on this week automatically at home, at work, in an organization, in a friend group, and ask yourself that question right now. What did you actually believe would happen if you didn't take that on? What did you actually think could happen? And it could be very far-fetched. It could be very realistic because there's always a hint of truth when our brain starts writing those stories. There's always a hint of truth. And that's what makes it sound real. I'd love for you to share it in the comments now or afterwards. What were the fears that came up if you didn't take it on? And maybe you didn't see it from that perspective. You thought you were just being helpful or getting things done. But if you step back and spend a few moments with what you took on that you didn't really want to or didn't plan to, what was at the root of it? If I kept asking you, what made you do it? Well, I wanted to be helpful, but what made you do it? Well, I didn't think anyone else was going to do it, but what made you do it? Well, if I didn't do it, here's what I might be thought of. So, what made you do it? And if we keep asking the same question, it keeps going down and down until we get to what were we afraid would happen. So, like I said, May gave us questions to ask in the moment, and maybe you could use them and maybe you couldn't. But if using them was really hard, it means there's a deeper level. It wasn't just you didn't, you're just so used to it, you just needed something to catch yourself, to move to intention. What it tells us is that yes, you can get to the questions, but first you have to deal with more at the root as to what's the concern that if I don't step in, what am I truly worried, concerned, afraid will happen? And today's about what's underneath that. And the one question to test the fear against reality. So maybe you ask yourself, instead of saying, is this mine to take on? Because your brain's always going to go, it is ours, yay. And then you later go, and our brain goes, we took it on. Why? Now the question is, start asking yourself, what is the reality if I don't take this on? And what am I concerned about? And is it an actual possibility? And sometimes it might be. Maybe you're seeing a project falling apart and you do have to step in. Maybe you do see a child or a loved one going in the wrong direction and you do have to step in. Those are real. But the 80%, I always use the 80-20. Those are 20% of our lives, probably. 80% is more we're afraid of something or concerned or worried. And how does that line up with reality? If this resonates with you and you want to take a little bit deeper, I will share also in the comments the link to last month of those questions. Once we engage in this, maybe those questions might have a different appeal or be a little bit more helpful. Because if we deal with that fear and that concern, then we can move towards more intentionality. But this month's blog also goes into this, and I'll share a link to that. Sometimes it's a little better to read something or have something to reference back to that we can dig a little deeper. But I really appreciate your time today. I hope this question helps you to have an opportunity to step back one more step and see what causes you, what's feeding this pattern of always taking things on. And if you're a point you're starting to see the pattern or it's challenging to engage with, and interrupting it is really hard in real time because those stories are there, those fears, those concerns. That's what coaching is for, and that's what I'm here for. My hope is to give people this, and if this is enough for you to run with, I am grateful. And if not, if you'd like to set up a discovery call, throw that in the comment, and we can talk this through a little bit and see what does that look like? How do you recognize these things and work through these patterns to get to the other side? Because the goal is to intentionally choose. The goal is, yes, we may still take on a lot, but did I choose to take that on? Not did I feel forced upon because of my concerns, because I feel there's a part of my identity or I'm concerned of what could happen. So I want you to think for a moment, and my hope is that you have one thing you're going to take away with or sit with this week that can support you and see how this question can jump in. So, as I shared at the beginning, I am Lindsay Pfister-Kerr with LPK Coaching. I am here to support you however I can. I will share some resources And I hope this offers you some guidance to support you through the rest of your week and as you move forward. And if I can ever do anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.